to Used to Sew, a podcast about sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host, Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about a collection of topics, including but not limited to sewing leather, fan mail, sewing project updates, and a tale of non-sales. This is actually two different recording sessions put together, quite far apart in time, because sometimes that's how the creative output flows. This episode's purpose is just to chat about stuff over tea and quilt blocks, to enjoy the community of sewists and sewing machine repair nerds that we are all a part of. And on that note, if you are a sewing machine repair nerd, we want to hear from you. We're interested in making a directory of all of you for future reference of friends and fans that might need your skills. Think about that while you listen to today's episode, and maybe write us when the show is over.
Welcome back to another episode of Used to Sew here in the new year. Hope you got sewing related stuff. If somebody felt compelled to give you gifts, hope it was useful. If not, regifting is a thing. Yeah, baby. I spent a lot of time sewing gifts, and I hope they were well received. If I see them in Goodwill.
That seems unlikely.
You know, when I see my old music recordings in Goodwill, I think that's really cool. Like somebody digitized their collection and passed all the physical stuff on for somebody else. Pretty hip. But there you are, bombling along in a thrift store, looking for CDs of singer-songwriters who were big in the 90s in the Northwest. Yeah, man. And you spot a sewing machine. Yes. Well, maybe you wandered into my store in 1986 and you passed right by the new stuff and went over to the trade-in table, which was a four-sided carousel that displayed 8 machines with a sign above that said, "Trade-in, starting at $39.99. No tax in Oregon. I'll give you a penny back." And I'd come over, "Hi there, Mrs. Customer. Are we looking for a stout used sewing machine today?" "Oh, well, yeah. Well, it's so leather." Or a customer comes in and they're looking at the new machines and they come up and they're twiddling around. They're like, "Well, it's so leather." This is like one of those questions when you're trying to get somebody to look at a sewing machine to buy it. "Well, it's so leather." How many of you actually sew leather? And let's define. That's about as broad of a question as, "Well, it's so fabric."
Okay, I thought leather was just one thing. Enlighten me. How varied is leather?
What is leather? Leather is the chemically treated skin of an animal, and it's a textile. It has no grain or direction. It's not a woven piece. It's humanity's first, quote, textile. You know, it took a while to invent tanning. Nowadays, 2026, what is leather? Leather is, unless it says pleather or vegan leather, straight up leather is animal skin. What kind of animal? This is where we get the variations, right? You can buy leather from everything from unborn calves and sheep to eels, sharks, cows, armadillos,
Crocodiles,
moose,
deer,
buffalo,
rabbits. Okay, I guess I do know some of the variations on leather.
Yeah, so it's like saying, will it sew leather? Will it sew fabric? Okay, so what is a customer asking me when they say, "Will it sew leather"? What are they asking me? What do you think?
They're asking you if it has the capacity to hold the needle and the textile and put the holes and the stitch through it. That's what they're actually asking.
Well, that sounds like what they're asking, but what do they mean when they ask that? What are they probing? They're saying, is it heavy duty? Is it strong? Is it gonna break?
Is it a hefty, chonky boy?
Yeah. Will it sew leather is what's the top end? How fast will this car go?
Okay.
Right? How big of an incline can this Jeep do? Will it sew leather is what's the top end performance I can expect from this? So once I kind of got that in my head that they weren't really asking me about leather because I started well, do you really sew leather? Some people actually do, and they'll know better than to ask if a household sewing machine will sew leather.
Okay. The autistic literalism strikes again. No, that's not actually what they meant. They meant something else entirely. Great. Love that from you, Karen. Can't you just ask what you want? Okay, whatever. Anyway.
She doesn't really know. Will it sew leather? And so my response, after I kind of figured it out, was, what weight of leather are you considering sewing? And then they would tell me, I want to make a jacket out of suede, or I'm making moccasins, or I'm making bags. Oh, what kind of bags? So not only will it sew through one layer of leather, when you're making a project, you're going to have seams and places where additional. So we're talking, will it sew through 8 layers of whatever you're sewing with? Now, my bestest comeback. Bring me in a sample of what you're sewing and we'll see, right? I'm not going to guarantee anything because I don't know what kind of leather you're sewing. If you're sewing harness leather, there's very specialized machines for that. If you're sewing kid gloves, well, yeah, you can do that. One of the things I was sewing for holiday gifts, will it sew leather? So I had to find out because the thing I wanted to make was leather. What I was making is these little, I call them panhandlers. I don't know what the term is. It's a little sock that you slip over the handle of your cast iron skillet.
Oh, so you don't burn yourself when you...
Yeah, right? So it's this, and I wanted to make it because I had one and I actually left it on there and it was made out of, even though the inside was that ironing board fabric, the outside was cotton. It caught fire.
Oh, well, that's not ideal.
Fire. So I wanted to make one out of leather because leather doesn't burn. It shrinks and shrivels and away to nothing, but it does not catch and hold a flame ever. It just doesn't. And neither does wool, which is what I wanted to line them with. Okay, so I went to my fabric stash. Ooh, leather. Yes, all different weights because I buy these scrap bags from a group of indigenous people in Canada. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's leather that's left over from hunting and they tan it.
Oh, cool.
And it's deer, elk, and moose, sometimes bison. And then they also have some lighter suede splits in funny colors. Anyway, I just buy these big bales of this stuff. So you get all these pieces. Oh, okay, I'm going to make my little panhandlers out of this. Wool. Ooh, I got this great piece of wool, and I actually got it when you and I were thrifting. It's a sleeve from an old American Army uniform that someone picked apart, which is made of really heavy, dense wool.
Right.
I quickly figured out that none of my domestic machines would go through 2 layers of that wool and leather. Just not going to happen. How am I going to build? So I wound up building the thing based on what I could sew on the machine, which is I sew the wool piece first and then the leather piece and then put them inside of each other like socks. Okay. But will it sew leather? Well, there was some of the leathers. So what machine did I wind up using? The VS3 hand crank.
Ah, hand crank.
Right? With a size 18 leather needle. A leather needle, as we talked about in our needle episode, it has a knife-like point, so it slices through the leather. Leather's not woven. It's a tough membrane, so it has to be sliced, not poked through. Very important. You got to use a leather needle. Leather needle. Oh, what kind of thread? I threaded it up with some heavy stuff. I hadn't really thought about that. So much of my thread is recycled and reused, and I wanted to use a thread that wouldn't melt.
Sure, right.
Gotta be a thread. There actually is like Kevlar thread and stuff, but it's so expensive. So I wanted to go with just cotton. Plus, as you stitch in, it sinks into the leather. It's really unlikely that cotton, but meltable things could melt. So it was not working with this first cotton that I used. Finally, I found something in my collection that would work with that needle. All the threads I'd been trying, even though I had the largest needle, the eye wasn't big enough for the threads I was trying. I really didn't grok that. So when I finally got the right thread and the right needle, I couldn't sew the bison or the moose. But the deer and the elk and the cow, pretty easy. Looked really good. Why couldn't I sew the deer, the elk, and the moose? I just didn't have the arm power. And when I tried to really reef on the machine to drive it through, it wouldn't go.
Wow.
Why? Well, what's the difference between an industrial and a household machine? It's the burliness of the guts, right? If I said, all right, I'm just going to hook this up to a really burly motor and make it go, something would bend. It's just not built for that kind of stress. Will it sew leather? Well, let me guess. You're sewing leather and upholstery and denim, and you're upcycling into these really cool. No, you're going to need a different kind of machine. Don't just say industrial, because that's like saying car. What kind? Will it sew leather? Will it sew fabric? I want an industrial machine. What kind? So you got to have the right needle, the right thread, the right foot. Leather doesn't feed evenly. A Teflon or a roller foot. These are specialty feet. Clearances in your machine. Can you lift the foot high enough to get the stuff under there without releasing the tension? Another great thing about the VS3, there's no tension release. Also with long shuttle machine, you can set the shuttle clearance to allow a thicker thread. So if you want to really, try sewing some heavy stuff, get a long shuttle. There's room to adjust there. But really, when it comes right down to it, if you're going to be sewing big, heavy stuff, you're going to need, at the very least, a Davis vertical feed.
Aha, yes, so I can sew leather. Mwahahaha.
Yeah. Yes, you can. Outfitted with, remember, we've modified that machine to use industrial needles up to size 22.
Right.
Which is Tex 70 size thread. Thread comes in different sizes called Tex. The highest Tex thread a household machine can ever hope to use is 70. Most of them kind of piss out at 50 or 60 because there's not enough room for the needle. Just thread clearances. People don't sew much now. People's sewing doesn't, either you're going to sew, is it sewing leather? Or they're just going to sew quilts, right? So you're serious about sewing leather, you're going to get a serious sewing machine, and you're not going to find a domestic sewing machine. Maybe you'll have one that has a strong motor, a 1.2 amp motor, but the threads get tangled up in the bobbin, So take a sample of the actual leather bags, all, folded over, not just one layer of your leather, but simulate going over a seam. And ask the person, bring your own leather needle, because not everybody has one, and your own thread, and sew on it. Will it sew leather? I don't know, Mrs. Customer. Let's find out. And we would. Some people would kind of give up because they had been just, is it heavy duty? But there were a few people that actually were going to make bags or doing reenactment stuff or making, ultra suede was a fake suede, but it worked just like leather. So yeah, let's try it out. And some of those old trade-ins, there was a few. Viking has what's called a reduction gear. Basically, you pull out part of the hand wheel or part of the bobbin winder. It's on the lower part of the machine. And it's like putting your car into low gear or four-wheel drive. Or like switching down to granny gear on your bike, right? Now you've got all the push of your legs, but only one stitch at a time. So there's a lot of those old Vikings that you can kind of punch through some heavy stuff. And one of my favorite vintage Japanese machines, Morse, built like a tank, 50 pounds, 1.2 amp motor on some of those things. The problem becomes the clearance of the foot. You just can't actually fit it under there. Will it sew leather? Okay, here's what TR recommends. If you're serious, you want to be a bag maker, you want to sew leather, you want to get yourself a machine that is set up for that. And I'm going to recommend Sailrite. Sailrite. Go to their website. For $1,600, you can have an awesome, engineered, perfect sewing machine for leather, bag making, sails, canvas, teepee covers, whatever you got. So will it sew leather? Depends on the leather, depends on the machine. Take a sample, try it out. And that's all I have to say about it.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Do you know how vegan leather stacks up against real leather in terms of its difficulty for sewing? Because I've heard that like pineapple leather and other stuff like that falls apart really easy. And I'm wondering if that like affects how it sews, if you know.
You know, that is a super good question. I have heard of cactus leather, and I hadn't heard of pineapple yet. And there's another, and I don't have any knowledge about that. I would say maybe it's like, because just like with, I'm going to guess that those aren't as fibrous and the fibers aren't as stuck together as in real leather skin fibers.
Right.
The danger might be what we call perforation. It's like more like when you're sewing vinyl, you have to make sure your stitches are far enough apart and your needle small enough that you don't get the postage stamp effect of ripping it apart.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of times putting a piece of twill tape in that seam, so that takes the stress. So you got fabric, piece of twill tape, fabric. So that twill tape is taking the lock stitch stress there. If you look at one of those little clear makeup bags, how they're sewn around the edge and they've got like binding, it's taking the stress.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
That's probably how I would approach a vegan leather. But I'll have to look at it. I'll have to see the properties of it as a fabric. Just like with animal leather, like from different parts of the animal's body, the quote fabric behaves differently. It's unlike any other fabric. One of my first, I used to sew reenactor gear for black powder, rendezvous guys, and Native American regalia for traditional dancers. And working with leather, it's like working with wood. It's never the same material twice. Whereas fabric can be quite consistent. Things like wood and leather and stone, each one's its own.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
But if leather's a big part of your sewing, you should get a machine that the thing, I said Sailrite because that's a brand I'm super familiar with, but it has to have a compound walking feed. It has to have a strong motor. It usually has to have the ability to slow down one stitch at a time. You're not sewing fast like curtains when you're sewing leather. You're sewing like things, like bags and stuff. So
Right. The only time I've ever sewn leather in my life was in elementary school when we did our like crafting moccasins, class project kind of thing. And we did all get given pieces of leather to then, cut out, and we had to poke holes first.
Yes.
And then
yes.
stitch it. Because, we were little kids, right? Of course, we're doing like the super handcraft Waldorf thing. But to me, the idea of even using a sewing machine to sew leather at all is like, well, that sounds so magical. If you can punch the hole and put the thread through all in one step, isn't that just schmancy?
Oh, it is. It super is. That cobbler machine that I'm working on, cobbler meaning shoemaking machine, has this massive spring that drives the needle bar. I mean, just the hugeness of these parts. And this thing's meant to sew shoes and boots. So it's pretty heavy leather, not like strap or harness leather. But I haven't got that one working yet. Stay tuned. But yeah, I've got awls, and I also have a leather punch, the kind you hit with your hand, and also the kind of looks like scissors. And so I've made a couple of scissor holsters out of the heavy moose leather, and there's no machine I have that'll sew that, so I hand punch the holes and then hand lace them. But that don't have to worry if that thread's going to melt. The scissors don't ever get that hot.
The scissors are that hot, you have other problems.
Yeah, really. I think I need to make one for my rotary cutter though now, even though it's like plastic. I want to find a rotary cutter that's metal that looks cool. I'm like, it's plastic. Like your chef's knives, you want them to be a pleasure to use.
Right, yeah.
Your tools should, life is too short for a sewing machine that jams, dull scissors, cheap thread.
It's true.
Just don't. Have less things of better quality. Yeah. There you go. So will it sew leather? Depends. Will it sew fabric? Depends. With vintage sewing machines, you got to try it out. So take your bobbin and your scissors and your needles and go try out some sewing machines. Stay threaded. meow, meow. Good morning, folks. It's a snowy morning here in Western Oregon, and I don't have a big, heavy topic today, but we have lots of fun little scraps that we've picked off the sewing room floor just for our friendly little weekly chat here. You know, I'm getting actually kind of scared because I looked at our YouTube channel and we have 150 subscribers now.
Okay.
20 in the last week.
Oh, wow.
And there were tons of comments on videos that I hadn't even thought, oh my gosh, I got to go over there and look at comments and answer things and be a friendly host. And it's like, I had this vision of things getting too large.
Yeah. There's a certain anxiety that comes with any amount of changing the plateau of attention that you're currently acclimated to. I've noticed every time my projects, like I start a new project, I'm like, I want this to get big. And then after a few months, I'm like, okay, this is good. Even if it's only 12 people, I'm like, it's fine. It's perfect now.
Fine. You know, if I don't know everybody.
If I don't want to promote stuff, then new people would find me.
Oh my gosh. New people would find me and I have to learn their names and their favorite song and what sewing machine they have. No, really, all you new subscribers on YouTube and Patreon and every place that you're finding us, just beware that we're neurospicy and things do slip off the cabinet and onto the floor and deeply into the carpet sometimes. So if we don't answer you right away, just bear in mind that we're probably sewing or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's like I watched this other channel, as you know from our past couple episodes, about plane sewing and space sewing. I'm interested in airplanes and rockets and stuff. So I watched this channel called Mentor Pilot. This really cute ginger Swedish guy. And he goes deep, I mean nerdly deep into famous air accidents and stuff. But he does it in a really respectful way. But anyway, he started off just a little channel where he could share his love of aviation and his take on stories. And now he's got millions of subscribers and a crew of 7 helping him produce his episodes, which have watching from the start of when he got going to where he's at now, the progression of the podcast and his storytelling ability and you know, he has quality sponsors. There's no AI in this stuff. So, yeah, if you're a plane guy, plane person, if you like plane sewing, if you like planes, go to Mentor Pilot and check him out. But, yeah, it's like, God, who would we hire?
I mean, this is the thing, is scaling up requires a lot of supplementary skills that are not the sheer content making. And I've only specialized in figuring out how to make content. Promoting it and having a team that helps me make it is a whole other set of skills.
Yes, he's got research assistants and graphics people. And the thing is that they're all over the world because things like Zoom, you know.
Because the internet is awesome.
It's so cool because if he doesn't know something, he can assign somebody, hey, go find out about this Pratt & Whitney engine or whatever, you know. Because he's a pilot. He's an actual active. He had to give up flying because his channel got so big.
Wow.
He started as just a basic pilot. He flies 737s, right? And then it started taking up more time. And he's also a dad.
The work from home job is going to appeal more, yeah.
And so just in the last couple of things, he's like, you know, guys, I actually had to quit flying because I have this feeling towards my fans that I have to give them what they came for.
I know that feeling for sure.
His motivation is analyzing aircraft incidents and looking for what we learned out of them. That's his whole thing, is not just, here was this disaster, but what did the airline industry learn? So I think that's a pretty cool guiding focus. And like we have our guiding focus of vintage sewing machines, sewing culture, sewing history. That's kind of where we go. We ping pong back and forth between those things and various bits of them. But today I don't have a huge topic. I was hoping to get back into machine and Japan, but it just got, you know, I was the kid that did my homework the night before I was due.
Are we related?
Well, I had to fix my refrigerator this week. I had to do all kind of other stuff. So anyway, let's get to what we are going to talk about today, which is some letters, fan letters, and YouTube comments and a little few technical things and a tale of sales.
Oh, and I have an update. I was working on a project just an hour ago.
Tell me. An hour ago. You still reek of sewing machine oil. Tell us.
What was that about doing our homework at the last minute? So I actually was using Dave. I was using the Davis vertical feed right before we got onto this recording because I have a blanket, a guest blanket that it's a very old blanket, and the edge of it had it's like a duvet, a comforter. Doesn't have a duvet cover. It's just the blanket. And the top of it had gotten all torn because of, years of us pulling up on it when we use it as our blanket.
Right.
And so I noticed that we had some guests over and the ratty broken end was now at the foot. And I was just like, come on. The sewing room is the guest room and the blanket is torn. This is embarrassing. They can see that I have sewing machines. It's right there. They're having to not hit them in the middle of the night when they go to the bathroom. So
Oh my God.
took some scraps of fabric that were about the right weight. I overlocked the edges. And then I started to pin them to the fabric and hand stitch them. And then I heard this little cough over my shoulder and I looked and Dave was just staring at me.
Oh, ahem.
Like googly eyes might as well have been on this machine. Just like, what are you doing with a hand needle right now? I'm literally right here. So I grabbed the blanket, I adjusted the pins, and I moved over to Dave. And it was definitely a wrestling match to, rotate the and as I'm just working at the top edge. It's not like I was doing the whole blanket, thank goodness. But still, it was quite complicated. But Dave ate it for breakfast. Just no complaints, no issues, no skip stitches, it just and it was done.
I'm looking at the picture of this that you sent me. And folks, this is one of those big puffy comforters that's been minimally machine quilted, like the big U shapes on it.
Yeah, really wide spacing on the original quilting.
Yeah, and so we've got basically it's a quilt, but it's not a quilt, but it's 3 layers, so technically it's some kind of a quilt. But that batting is so huge. If you had tried to do that on something other than the vertical feed, you wouldn't.
That's why I just started doing it by hand, was because I was feeling the puffiness, and I'm like, none of my machines can do this. That's ridiculous. I'm like thinking of Kenny. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. Yeah, I'm like, no, it's too chunky. And then Dave's like, ahem. Did you not acquire me for this exact reason?
Dave to the win. So this is a Davis vertical feed, but it's the old one with the long needle, which I actually think is a little burlier than the new vertical feed that they started selling when they got over their proprietary needle thing. So, yeah, I am so psyched to see this picture and hear you say that.
It was so easy. It was already threaded up. You literally had it threaded up and ready.
Threaded up and ready.
And I just, turn on the lights that we have on power strips and stuff. And obviously treadling is easy. That treadle stand is great. The belt tension is great. I remembered that it's a manual release tension for the top thread.
Yeah.
And it was just so dreamy. It was so easy. And so, now so I put patches on both sides because literally the fabric had torn through on both sides. So it's like very quilted.
Sure.
And it's still going to be the foot of the blanket, I think, because now that part is much denser, right? Because I've put the stitching at a much denser pacing than the rest of the blanket. So it is still very much an amateurishly repaired blanket in a lot of ways, but it's not literally batting 3 sheets to the wind exposed now. It's demure.
Well, and it's also now it is useful. It is repaired. It is not in the landfill. It's keeping people's feet warm because a sewing machine and somebody who knew how to use it. Yay! That is cool.
Yeah. So I wanted to report I was actually in my sewing room doing a useful thing with a treadle.
Oh, man, you get all the points today. You win. You win used to sew. I'd give you a sticker, but you already have several.
It's true.
I want to talk about, that's just so cool. Did I sew anything this week? Yeah, I've been sewing constantly. What are you saying? I'm working on several quilts. I changed a shirt into a jacket. You know what the difference between a shirt and a jacket is?
The front closure? The collar?
Waistband.
Ah.
A jacket has a waistband. A coat doesn't. A jacket has a waistband. So this is taking
I never thought about that.
Taking a really long men's shirt and hacking off the bottom because it was a men's tall, large and tall. Okay, so that's my body size, but definitely not my stature or my limbs. So I shortened it, but then it didn't look right. And I'm like, why is this not right? Well, because I was trying to make it into a jacket, and the fabric just went down and it's like stopped like a shirt. And it's like, that's not right. This is heavy fabric. It just didn't look okay. So I took some more of the fabric that I had cut off the sleeves and the bottom and carefully pieced it together. Now it's a plaid, folks, and yes, I did match them. And sewed that on, and now it looks complete. It looks like it's supposed to. But I had never realized the difference between a shirt and a jacket. The way that looks is a nice waistband. Well,
today we learned.
Today we learned. So I sewed that. Still working on my Chaos 9 patch. And now I want to get to this cool letter. This is a letter from Leon Fundenberger. Now, if you're into vintage sewing machines, you might know Leon is a presence on several vintage sewing machine websites, but I think he found us on Victorian Sweatshop, victoriansweatshop.com. Good evening, this is Leon Fundenberger. I finally got around to listening to your podcast. Okay, full disclosure here, I am a Luddite. This is the only podcast I have ever listened to.
So many of our audience are that way. I love it.
Anyway, you talked about White expanding markets beyond their sewing machines. They also built trucks and buses and bicycles. Another bicycles.
Bicycles.
One of my dreams is to have a vintage bike and sewing machine from the same year. That's pretty cool. Leon goes on. I have not heard you get really techie on your podcast yet, but the white faceplate system is a really tricky one with a connecting rod eager to fall off as soon as you take it off. 4 hands and a lot of light are ideal. I have many whites and I enjoy the embossed ones. Haha. And I answered, hi, Leon. I recognize your name from various VSM groups. I knew White built trucks, but not bikes. Very cool idea about the matched set. I am a competent VSM mechanic, but would never consider myself a true techie person, especially after hanging out at Victorian Sweatshop with people like you, Leon. I am more of a presenter and entertainer who tells stories and points people to good information, like real techie people stuff. Nevertheless, I do know about that white face end, and I still think it's easier than the Davis vertical feed. Similar, actually, in that holding things with all 3 hands is key. And then I ask him if I can say his name and stuff on the air, and he says, of course. And then he goes on to he answers me back, and tell a few more stories about taking machines to places and demonstrating them and stuff, which is really fun. He didn't get into sewing machines until he was in his 60s.
Never too late to pick up a new hobby.
And like myself, he tells people it's like puzzles. So yeah, it's really cool. He grabs one, cleans it, fixes it, put it on a shelf. Now I like to wrench by remote and help folks discover the joy in self-repair.
Wrench by remote. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. I tend to haunt vintage sewing machine Facebook pages and offer advice. That is so cool. So yeah, thank you, Leon. If you want a sticker, mail me back with your address. I would be happy to send you one.
That's very cool. That's just neat to know.
It really
so like if you're out there looking for help on a forum, you may end up getting help from this guy because he's just out there looking to help.
Definitely. You know, he's got an unusual name, and I go, wait, I know this guy from somewhere. Where is it? Oh, yeah, he's on, all the things. And that's one of the things the internet's great for, especially since we can share pictures and stuff now. It wasn't always like that, kids. Back in the 90s, it was black and white.
I mean, it was just slow as hell.
I used to be able to make a dial-up sound, but I won't subject you all to that.
That's a flashback.
What Leon mentioned there about the white FR, the white rotary, is that machine doesn't have its basic little nose cover plate that you take off. You actually take off the whole square nose section comes off. There's 4 screws that you get to from the hand wheel side, and then that whole rectangular piece comes off. all the needle bar, everything. It's like, uh-oh, what did I just do?
Oh, no.
But unlike the Davis, there's not 7 little rollers that you have to put back together. There is a rod and some things that have to be put back in a certain way or it's not going to go. And I've always found it easiest for the Davis and the White is to turn the machine up on its hand wheel side, let gravity help you out there.
Sure.
And 4 hands and 2 headlamps. But again, I can't tell you how to do that right now, but I can tell you that there is tons of people out there like, maybe not like Leon because he's a Luddite. Maybe he doesn't take pictures with his phone. I didn't know you could do that. But there's plenty of videos of folks out there. If anything you need on a sewing machine to know how do you do that, look on YouTube. There's crazy people out there that say, hey, I think I'm going to take a picture of this and share it with the folks. Yeah.
You know, Luddites were actually, the actual original Luddites, I believe, were partially pissed off about looms.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it specifically is the whole like sewing is
Yes.
the point of the spear for the entire Industrial Revolution. It's also one of the points of friction where the actual Luddites come from.
Yeah. It was actually a guy named Ned Ludd.
Like,
and he,
yes.
Ludd. And I think
He may or may not have actually existed.
no, I think he did.
I listened to a very cool podcast
Really?
about, there's this guy that, there's this very cool podcast I've told you about, cool people who did cool stuff. And it's always from an anarchist, like labor history perspective. And all of the Luddites would claim to be getting their orders from King Ludd.
Okay.
Who may not have actually been a person because that was a way of having, leaderless resistance essentially. Like, yeah, it's that guy over there. Definitely not anyone you can arrest in this group. We took our orders from King Ludd. Mm-hmm. Yep. There may or may not have been a real person, but also it's anyway. I'll put a link to the in the show notes.
Okay. Yes. That's curious.
A very cool story. The Luddites were actually way cooler than that. People use it as a pejorative term. They were actually making very solid points about the Industrial Revolution and had really good tactics and rhetoric for the context.
So they actually intersect with the Industrial Revolution textile facet then. Yeah, because that's what I think, yeah.
Because they were looking at what you were talking about with the loss of cottage industry and the transition to the, like, that was part of what they were protesting is they were like, this sure looks like a way to destroy everything we hold dear. We would like to maybe destroy the machines until we can have a more like cohesive cultural conversation about how this is going to affect us. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Well, we tried. We are now a pejorative term.
I wonder if, the very first invented and used sewing machine was this French guy named Barthélemy Timonier. And he was in the 1790s. And he only made like enough machines for one factory for the French to sew army uniforms or some stuff. And the story of his deal is tailors came and broke into his shop and broke up all the machines, and that was the end of him.
Yeah, same kind of idea behind the Luddites. They weren't anti-tech, but they were anti their entire livelihoods being firebombed in just an eye blink economically.
Yeah. Meet your replacement. This is Jenny, spinning Jenny,
Yeah, they were like, we would like a little bit more agency. We would like a little bit more possession of the means of production like we have had for the last several centuries of cottage industry. It's a whole complicated thing. Like I said, I'll put the podcast link in the show notes because it's really cool, important story to tie into this.
Yes, please do. That's another neat to tie into this. Yeah, because that goes to the whole Industrial Revolution textile thing. Wow.
Anyway, sorry to derail. Pedantism and tangents.
No. That kind of gets me onto it. I've got this list of micro topics here today since my brain was resembled a scrap quilt for about the last week. Like all these angles going together. That color doesn't quite fit. Small businesses. I know several of you out there listening right now have little cottage sewing machine repair businesses. Out of your garage or your spare room or your bedroom or even your van. And it's sometimes like, wow, am I taking business away from a, quote, real sewing machine store, unquote, if I do repairs for cheap or free? And I got to thinking about that, and I'm like, after reading around a lot of places, here's my answer. No, you're not taking money from the big sewing machine stores because the big sewing machine stores are selling new sewing machines. That's what they're there for. If you go into a place and see new machines, repairs are going to be expensive. You know why?
Because selling a new machine is even more fun.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get that. I don't want to take time with this old thing. I want to sell you something new because my margin is much bigger on it. But if you insist I'm going to sell, I don't want to be down on these tech people, but I'm just telling you, vintage sewing machine people, don't take your 500A into a real sewing machine dealer that has signs like Bernina, Brother, Juki, stuff. They don't want to fix your machine. You want to find one of these weird old folks like me, like Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, and like a lot of other people I'm finding now. I just found one. The reason I'm blathering about this, I was searching for some other thing and ran across a person. Where did I put her now? I don't know how I got onto this page. It's on nextdoor.com, which is one of those snoop on your neighbor sites, I think.
Yeah, I've never heard it spoken of in anything but the most derisive of terms.
But I don't know what I was Googling, but I got onto Nextdoor, United States, Oregon, businesses, Pacific Northwest Vintage Sewing Machine Rescue. Oh, really?
Hello.
In Scappoose, Oregon. We know somebody from Scappoose.
Oh, yeah.
Comes highly recommended for their exceptional service. Customers praise the owner, Pam Thompson, for quick and professional service, as well as her extensive knowledge of vintage sewing machines. So then this is, it's like a business review site. And then there's a picture of her shop here, and it's so cute. It's perfect. And she's got, it looks like a Rocketeer on the bench.
Ah.
So anyway, I wrote to this person, and I want to see if she wants us to talk about her on the air. And then I thought, well, we could do that with just about any of you guys out there. If you've got a little garage-based sewing machine shop, because people are asking all the time, who can I get to go through this machine for me? Go through this machine. I just bought this machine. I don't know. I'm a sewer, and then there's always electricity. Oh, I'm afraid of the electricity. Don't go to your local Bernina dealer or whatever your brand is, Viking. Go find some guy in his garage.
So if you are some guy in a garage and you would like to find more people, reach out to us. We'll shout you out.
There's another one that I'm going to contact called Central Oregon Sewing Machine and Serger Rehab and Recycle. Basically what they do is take donated machines and fix them up and give them away or sell them for cheap to people who need them. Now, this is not competing with your new sewing machine dealer. It's not. All right? You could look at it like, oh, you're taking money away from... No, you're not. You're keeping stuff out of the waste stream, in the usable stream, like you just did with that blanket, right? You could have just chucked that out, went to Target and bought a brand new one. No, you fixed it. And people want to fix... I mean, there's way more interest in vintage sewing machines now than there are people like us out here fixing them. So if you fix old sewing machines and you're willing to put your name out there, I will make a little list. So when people say, is there anybody by me? I can say, legal, blah, meow, etc. Not my fault, but here they are.
No, we can definitely make a list and have it on our website. We can definitely shout out any social media handles or little business tags or if any of you out there want to get a new audience.
Yes.
We want to, you can be our next unofficial sponsor, because that's the cool thing about unofficial sponsors is we can just assign them.
But this is not going to cost you a darn thing.
Exactly.
This is we're building a network of people who want to reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, restore, rehome, restitch. And then check this out. Okay, once people know you're a sewing machine person, right? Aradia, like you said before, they start sending you pictures.
Yeah. If you have a hobby that is weird and unique, people will just start sending you samples of said hobby.
Hey, I heard you're into geology. Here's a rock.
Literally, I've been sent pictures. I've been sent actual rocks. Like, people have shown up and it's like at events and been like, hey, I saw a rock in Alaska and thought of you. Have a rock. I'm like, I now have a rock from Alaska on my desk. Cool.
Didn't I bring you the ones from the Great Unconformity? Did I bring?
Yeah, you did. You brought me the Great Unconformity. It's amazing. Just because I yell about rocks, and then people are like, I should bring you some rocks. This is true of every hobby.
I want a piece of rock from the KT boundary. That's what I want.
Ooh, same. That would be so cool.
Okay, so Mike, our unofficial sponsor at Stagecoach Road Sewing Machine, who is also one of those weird old guys in his garage that can do miracles with your 1591. Anyway, Mike contacted me and said, TR, I got a lady from the local museum, and they're going to be doing demonstrations of like old time stuff, soap making and and treadle sewing machines. And they want you to come, or Mike recommended me to be the one to come and demonstrate because, like I said, I've been on stage for 40 years. I'm not afraid of talking in front of people. I like to blab about sewing machines. So I'm going to go meet this lady on Thursday at the Siuslaw Pioneer Museum, and they've got, she said something like, a bunch of machines. Specifically, I think it's the white rotary that they want to use. I don't know why that one, but anyway, they gave one to Mike to take home and see if he could fix it up, and it's one of those really super old Wheeler and Wilson. Looks like an old record player. Yeah, I'm so knowledgeable here. Yeah, it looks like an old record player. So yeah, I'm excited about going and meeting with Pat and seeing their collection of machines and getting one fixed up and ready to demonstrate in March. And she says a lot of times they'll have between 50 and 100 people here.
Wow, and better make sure to take stickers for the podcast.
We'll take stickers, and I want to have some cards that we can hand out about the podcast.
I should probably make it a point to come along, too.
I think you should.
That sounds awesome. I haven't been to that museum since I was a little kid, and you took me there, like when we first moved to this area. I really want to go back.
It's in a different location now. It's much bigger. It's in Old Town.
Is that not where it was when you took me there?
No, it was down south of the bridge, I think.
Oh. Memories are malleable.
Yeah, and there's just so much cool stuff there. So, yeah, there's so many ways for us to spread the good news about old sewing machines, and this is going to be one of them.
Old sewing machines on a new podcast.
Absolutely. So this is going to be like, and there's going to be somebody there who's fascinated and who's going to say, I've got my grandma's. Can you help me fix it up or whatever? And you can point them to resources and maybe even help them out or whatever. It's like, it's so exciting. And this morning I was afraid that, TR, I don't have anything to talk about today. I'm going to run out of topics. And it's like, well, it's more like people are hanging out and listening to us. Like that one comment we got about the audio on one of the episodes. This lady's like listening through the whole thing and she goes, wait, this audio is the same as that. You guys linked it wrong.
I appreciate that heads up so much. I'm so embarrassed as a producer, but thank you for letting me know that I screwed that up. I will be fixing that basically as soon as this recording is over. I'm going to go make sure those files are where they should be.
Well, because basically she's like, I'm setting up my new sewing room and I'm listening to this. And it's like, wait, no, that's not the right thing. So she's really excited to hear the one that she missed.
Yeah, no, it's with Wheel of Time spoilers, my big flagship show. We're currently at episode 569, I think, is what we're recording today. And that's actually not all the episodes. It's only the ones we've put in the numbered scheme. There's also some other ones that are not numbered.
Oh, my Lord.
It's a lot. And whenever... It happens less now that the series is winding down, but for a long time there, we would get people on the regular showing up saying, hi, I'm halfway through the binge. I've been listening to your podcasts every waking moment for the past 2 months, and I'm at episode 300, and I'm working on it. And they're speed running your whole life. All the little things that you said, like stuff that you've forgotten, you've mentioned on the internet, and they are just learning more about you than you've forgotten in this whole but that experience of finding the podcast and saying, oh, I've got 400 hours of content. I'm not going to run out of content anytime soon. And that podcast is truly epic. It's 8.5 years old.
I was just going to say, how many years have you been going for that?
We are currently trying to make it so that way when it concludes, because we're reading the books to the end and then we're going to stop. We're trying to massage the schedule right now to make sure to see if we can end at the 10-year anniversary.
Oh, wow. That would be cool. That would be cool.
We're about 1.5 years from the end. It's about 1.5 years to 10 years. So we're going to try to actually massage it so that way the podcast is 1 decade long.
That's cool.
Obviously, our backlog here at Used to Sew is not nearly so expansive. It will take us a hot minute to get there.
I think we were like coming up on 80 episodes or something.
Something like that. So we'll get there. I don't think we're going to run out of content. But yeah, it's really cool to hear that there's people doing the binge, that big long slide through the catalog, like even for us.
That just makes me want to make it as good as I can. But on the other, just like my buddy, mentor pilot who I was talking about earlier, Petter Hornfelt, he's got such a good Swedish accent. He says things like stabilizer instead of stabilizer. Anyway, he puts enough of himself into the podcast that I feel like he's kind of a buddy now.
Yeah, the parasocial connection, yeah.
I know he's got kids. He's got 2 little dogs that sometimes they're on the couch with him when he's doing the speaking parts. It's like the difference between factory made and artisanal, right? You're never going to hear any AI on this podcast. And I'll go to people's channels, and the minute I hear AI voices, I am off of that. I don't want to hear it. I don't want factory clothes. I don't want factory entertainment. So please help us not get too big. Don't share this podcast with anybody.
Only people who are really cool. Only share us with the cool kids.
You have to know the secret password, which is... But I'm not done yet. That's why I said it quietly. We got 2 more things to talk about. This week's thrifting adventure. Okay, I live 12 miles from a little town that has 2 name brand thrift stores, St. Vinny's and Goodwill. I try not to shop at Goodwill for personal political reasons. St. Vinny's I fully support because they do a lot of great work with people around here who need a little help. So I went down to St. Vinny's, and of course I, cruised right to the back corner where the textiles and sewing and crafty stuff is, and there's somebody standing in my spot.
Your spot of the thrift store.
My spot, right in front of the bins of bias tape and bagged stuff, and so... okay, I'll look at the stamps here. I'll look at the rubber stamps. There's a big bin of rubber stamps. It's like, is she ever going to move? Okay, I'll go around to the other side, and I'll look at pet stuff. It's on the other side of the aisle. She's still there. Move! And she's not a small woman. She's like me. She's right in front of that bin, and she ain't moving. So finally, I sidled up to her and go, hey, what are you looking for? Yarn. Oh, okay, that's not what I wanted. Oh, I'm looking for bias tape. Can I share this bin with you? And so then we start talking about crafty stuff. So
as one does, yes. Nerds, hobbyists.
Yeah, I'm not gurring at her anymore. We're like searching for our stuff, and I told her.
Now you're doing like the phatic clucking.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. Is this wool? Oh, yeah. So, I go, do you come here often? Wow. And she says, yeah, every week, and come down here.
You've been standing in her spot. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm thinking. So I said, last week here, I got a Bernina sewing machine. And she just kind of looked at me blankly. I go, you not sew? Oh, no. I've heard of that, though. My mom might have one. So she wasn't impressed, damn it. Aww. She's just a knitter.
Just a handcrafter. How dare.
All of us crafty people, really cool. So if I see her again there, I'll be able to say, hey, hi, knitter. And she'll be able to say, hi, sewing machine nerd.
Yep. Excellent.
And one more thing. Okay, today it was snowing here, which is not usual. But it reminded me of another snowstorm. Let's have that time travel noise. Back to 1988, February 1988. And Eugene, Oregon got hit with a real snowstorm. I'm talking drifts and crunchy, powdery, skiable snow. We usually get this white, sludgy stuff. So anyway, it was really cold. And it reminded me of my teen years in Iowa. It's like, it's crisp out. It's 15 degrees. There's all this great snow. I'm going to get on my bike and go to work. I was working at the sewing machine store at the time, over at the mall. So I hop on my bike and I cruise out, and woo, it's a little slippery. Woo, even though it was crunchy snow. All right, I got this. I'm riding a mountain bike. I've got, tires that are knobby, and I've let some of the air out so I have better squish. Cruising along. It's only a mile and a half to work. I get to the bridge over the Willamette River, the last bit. And the minute I hit the bridge, zoop, there was a layer of ice under all that night fluffy snow. If there hadn't been a railing on that bridge, me and the bike would have went right over the edge.
Yeah, I bet.
But we crashed into the rail there, and I'm like, oh shit. Okay, am I in one piece? Can everything move? It's only I can get to work now. Last half mile, get there, push my bike in. I hadn't even noticed that there weren't any cars in the parking lot. Usually there's people waiting to get in. You know, those customers, your regulars. Go in the back door, put my bike out. Okay, my leg's all right. A little blood there. Yeah, fix that. All right, get out of my bike stuff, get into my sales stuff, go out, turn all the lights on all the machines, get ready, store music's going, 9 o'clock, store opening. Nobody. Drifts are blowing through the parking lot. The fabric store manager, we're both, after about an hour, we're sitting there at the front of the store by the registers, drinking coffee and looking out, going, you know, why did we even bother to come to work today? Our customers...
They're at home sewing like reasonable people.
Exactly. And that's what we thought. Oh, we need to get to the store in case somebody runs out of thread or something. We sat there for 4 hours watching it snow. And like, why did we do this? Why did we even risk ourselves to come to the fabric store? Well, really and truly, I thought that a customer might need me. You know, that's just how it was back then. I thought, what if somebody drives all the way out here to buy bobbins and I'm not here? So there I am with my banged up leg watching it snow. Midge says, you think we ought to just close the store? And I'm like, Mr. Suit's not going to like that. Yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
Turn off all the lights. Go back out. By now, the snow is much deeper. Okay, but I'm still mountain biking through it and my feet are going through the little snow drifts.
Damn.
And I get to the bridge. Okay, now get off the bike, hold the handrail, walk over the other side, ride the rest of the way home. Snow's coming in my face. Stuff. Oh, I can't wait to get home.
Such a Calvin's dad kind of moment.
Oh man, and I'm so excited. I'm going to get home and I'm going to have a whole day off to sew in my big sewing room that I never get a chance to be in because I'm always at the store selling sewing machines and buying stuff for my sewing room that I never get a chance to be in because I'm at the store selling sewing machines. I'm going to go home and sew. I get home. I open the door. The power's off.
No.
I didn't have a treadle. I had a serger and a press and 2 regular singers that were fairly new. The power was off. Because snow fell on the branches, because we're not used to snow around here, it breaks the trees,
Yep.
The good part of that was the store was closed the next day, too.
Oh, good.
And the power was back on. So I did get some. Actually, you have the project, that green and brown and peach quilt that's hanging over your door. That's what I was working on.
That's what you were working on? Oh, that's amazing.
It was sewn on a Singer 6233.
Yeah, I remember when I was a little kid. Now it's a strip of decoration in my very colorful office.
I cut it in half for some reason. That was back when homes were decorated. You had 2 choices. You had Williamsburg blue and rose, or you had the peach and green. That was it. Like, those were your 2 choices for home dec.
I mean, that's more choices than millennial grage, which is all the rage now.
Oh, ew.
I'm about ready to start painting my house because I keep hearing about just the washed out nonsense that is why millennials have everything white. And I'm just like, oh, this is gross. Oh, I need to start like Jackson Pollocking my walls or something.
Oh, we need color.
I need murals. I need rainbows. I mean, you've seen my office. I have like...
Your office, you have all kinds of textiles. Yeah.
So many flags and colors. I have stuff everywhere. It's a huge reason why I have 3 different pride flags. I don't actually display them for anyone but myself. It's just to make the walls covered in bright colors. Like, yes, they are my pride flags, but also they are not blank whiteness, which I guess is actually very allegorically appropriate.
Well, yeah, when I was in my preteens and teens, we lived in a government housing project, and you weren't even allowed to put nails in the wall or anything like that, let alone paint. So I actually hung up fabric. I'd just go buy pretty fabric. I was 12. I really wanted to sew, but I was also afraid to cut the fabric because I knew it would mess it up. So I just bought big pieces of fabric and gently tacked them to the wall, because when you take them down, you can fill up those little holes with toothpaste.
Right, yeah.
All right, folks, there's been a lot of just nonsensical blabbing here, but thanks for spending time with us, and I hope you feel like we're your friends. And if you know anybody, or you are a small-time sewing machine repair person, send us your information, and we will talk about you, and we will put you on our list, and we will grow our little club of vintage sewing machine people. Write to us at usedtosew@gmail.com, and stay threaded.
And there you have it, another series of loosely organized tangents about sewing leather, sewing blankets, fan mail, Luddites, and snow. We rambled around without a major point this week, and we hope that you enjoyed that cozy vibe. Next week, we'll be back to more readings from fabricating consumers. And speaking of books, I had a great experience yesterday. Okay, so I was running my weekly autism support group and mentioned something that had come up here on Used to Sew. It might have even been the Luddite conversation again. I swear I've brought that up to like 5 different people in the last week. And as I'm doing that, 2 different people got up from their desks and came back to show me a book they had called The Fabric of Civilization: How Textiles Made the World by Virginia Postrel. So, of course, before the group had even ended, I had forwarded the link to Mom and had her buy it with our Patreon funds. So you all can expect us to include info from that at some point, too. Link to the book will be in the show notes. That's going to do it for us this week. I hope that you were inspired to write to us with your micro repair business to shout out, and that you'll tune in next week for more sewing history. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine. You can reach them at srvsew@gmail.com. Follow us on social media and YouTube, and you can best support us by sharing the podcast with your friends. You can even get ad-free episodes by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/usedtosew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.